Yo, it's MC Devi here. You are listening to the Bayat Beat podcast, exposing the truth as we see it. This is a podcast where a son, a mother of one, and a grandmother of three open up each other's eyes to the Matrix, look at the modern day world from the perspective of three different generations, follow, laugh, and brilliantly analyze the tragic comedy we know as the human experience. Music you are listening to is by my late and great grandfather Saadun El Bayati. May he rest in peace. Yo, MC Devi. And I am joined by my co-host, the Reverend Summer El Bayati.
Hello.
And a guest today, Mr. Jake Doe over there in the corner.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? This is Jake Doe coming at you live from the Albayati household.
Yeah, Jake.
He's got the radio voice going. Sadly, Mrs. Barbara El Bayati, the matriarch, is not with us today. She is in Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan. And she's visiting
She's doing
her
reunion
old
stuff.
high school.
Yeah, reunion stuff.
Pretty awesome, pretty cool stuff.
Mhm.
So, Jake, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, thank you very much.
Yes, we just saw Sportive Tricks at
Yeah.
Muldoon's at the pub.
Muldoon's. In Newport Beach.
Newport Beach.
Sportive Tricks puts on a good show, don't they?
That's where I was going.
Shout out to Muldoon's, everybody. Thank you them for having us there. Like, the food was amazing. I mean, I finished the whole shepherd pie.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
That was like 15. Like, took me like 15 minutes to eat that whole bowl
I know,
of like shepherd's
right?
pie.
Like you
And
had to eat and then take a break and then come back to it.
Right, but the Irish soda bread, that's my favorite.
That's
Oh
not
yeah,
bad.
yeah. You can't skip
Yeah.
on the soda bread.
No,
That's
you can't.
definitely
No, you
something like
And it makes it even more sweet when you are there with Sportive Tricks, right? And they are just, entertaining us with their amazing music, and we just have a wonderful time. I look forward to that every single
every
time.
member was really kind of energetic. Like
Mhm.
I haven't been back to Muldoon's over like the last time you took me was probably before I start like my first year of college.
Yeah, I think the last
Right.
time we went was
Yeah,
with
and-
all our buddies. right?
Mm.
Yeah, and I was still around El Dorado Emerson back in like the old facility.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That really kind of helped me throughout the first year as a freshman and then second year.
Mm.
Gotta be
Oh,
honest.
going back, visiting your high school alma mater, you mean? That helps
Yeah,
to go through college, huh?
yeah, it really does.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so now because like Barbara is not here today, let me guide today's our topic. So our topic today is about happiness
Yeah.
and in the pursuit of happiness.
The Pursuit of Happiness.
Good movie, great movie.
That was a great movie.
That's a tearjerker.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like the philosophy of what is happiness and like
Right.
what's evolving throughout the history, like in different subject. So let's like we get happiness. It seems to be one of our humans like greatest prime emotion. I would
Mhm.
say.
That's the prime directive.
Oh.
Is
Yeah.
happiness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it's so we say, right? We say it's happiness, but then we don't really know what that is till
Right. Right.
we're
What is
way
happiness?
older,
Yes.
right?
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of think in terms of, Jake, you came here to the United States, right,
Right.
from Vietnam
Right.
to study,
Mhm.
in theory, in pursuit of happiness, I would assume, right?
Oh
is
yeah,
that-
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like when I was a kid, USA was kind of like the one thing that like struck me like in my like childhood. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
started like studying English for almost like I started from five since I was 5 years old,
Oh
and
wow.
that was way like really long ago. It was like
Mm-hmm.
14 years,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of like kind of helped me, developing this independent thoughts and like having a self concept of what am I achieving, like
Mm.
like in Vietnam, there isn't much to say. Like if you live down in like further south of Ho Chi
Mm-hmm.
Minh City,
Mm-hmm.
it's my city is this kind of like bustling but really peaceful kind of city. There isn't much going on as in terms of like crime
Mm.
or in terms of like social problems.
Mm-hmm.
It was considered quite a peaceful city, and I had a really stable like childhood. And when I came here, like about 2 years now,
Mm-hmm.
so it really changed. It really changed my perspective as when I was a kid and like till to this point now.
Mm.
How? How did your perspective change?
Let's just say like Vietnam is like it's a small league. It's a small league of like kids. If you are like if you were kind of like had this outgoing attitude and like you kind of have like very active and like enthusiasm for studying, chances are you might be the kid that kind of like having a lot of having a lot more opportunities.
Mm.
And I had that ability, but however, I kind of had a little setback, and when I was young, my relationship with my parents wasn't that great,
Mm.
Mhm.
and I always end up like getting caught and doing something wrong, and then they scold me, so it kind of affect a little bit
Mm-hmm.
on like my innocence now.
Mm.
And when starting to grow up, I become more sarcastic. I become more outcast by my peers.
Mm.
But coming here, I was more I was more reclusive. I become more cautious on what I'm saying and what I'm doing.
Yes.
So it really helped me open up to other people's thoughts and opinions. And El Dorado was kind of like my experience as the experience of giving me that experience to grow up and becoming an adult.
Yes.
So I think that was like the best time of my life. It was
Mm.
at El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, so back to happiness, right? So we kind of talk about like happiness in terms of our personal goal, and then we're talking about like a lot in like political situation right now. So let
Mm.
me ask you guys a question. My first question is like, what was your definition of happiness? What is happiness in your sense? Like, what is your goal? What is you like? What is your motivation to go out, like to get through this life, and tell me how and why.
The
Like,
definition of happiness.
yeah.
I don't. To me, happiness is just happiness. I think. Um, and I think the motivation for getting to a happy state is happiness. So it's kind of like a circle, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think in today's society, happiness has kind of not been the main objective.
Hmm.
I felt in terms of, I don't know how to put this. Maybe somebody can help me out.
Well, what do you mean by it's not the main objective?
Like in terms of our, like, would you say physical like obsession, or in terms of like mental or spiritual welfare, like spiritual wealthiness, like wealthiness.
I think I think happiness we've put a what's it called? We've put a face on it.
Mm.
This is what happy looks like.
This is what happy looks like, but that's not really happiness because happiness is individual to each person. You
Right.
know,
Ah.
somebody might be happy, uh, you know, cooking, for example, right?
Right.
Right.
Whereas somebody might be happy doing a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. What is happiness? Jake had asked what motivates you, and I think the way that I look at happiness is a holistic way of being. So it's not just about I feel happy, it's I feel fulfilled in my relationships, whether it be romantic or with friendships, right?
Mm.
I have a good family life. I feel loved. I am successful at work or school. Excuse me. I feel physically I have well-being, right? I'm exercising and eating right. And then there's the spiritual component, right? So there's all these different components to happiness. And if you were to look at it just from a spiritual standpoint, right? If you look at something like taking the religion of Buddhism that says that there's suffering in the world, then to be happy means not to erase suffering, but to be happy despite your suffering, right? To be able to feel happy no matter what you're going through, no matter what obstacles in life.
Right.
Well, for
Right.
some of us, suffering can be a sort of happiness.
Say
that
more.
that means messiah masochist.
No.
Like
But that's one aspect of it. I mean,
yeah,
like
one aspect. Yeah.
when I'm at the gym
Yeah.
and it hurts like hell, it's a fulfillment, a sort of,
You feel
or
Yeah,
happy.
yeah. Like
You
it's
got those endorphins going.
yeah, but
the
That
adrenaline.
makes
The
you
adrenaline.
the
happy.
adrenaline.
Yeah, the adrenaline
But
rush.
also,
Yeah.
there was something, we watched John Wick 3 last night. Super violent movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Very violent.
Really cool though.
Yeah.
But he said something, or Winston said something towards the end of the movie. He quoted The Art of War, and I recognized that quote because I read the book.
Mm.
But he said, you have to have war in order to have peace.
Right, which is one of the many of humanity's paradox, because like I can reflect it as like this one of the piece in the Bible about Cain and Abel, which is after the first sin that Adam and Eve committed. So like that's where the idea that if there's war, then there's peace. I kind of feel like like what Cain did to Abel, it sets up into this path where humans as our own had to have this conflict
Mm.
because when we in a state of conflict, we begin to ask ourselves, we begin to self-reflecting on what we have done. I mean, like some
We
of
should self-reflect, but not everybody
yeah,
does, Jake.
but yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Right.
there's certain aspect of that, like when people are into in that certain point of like making decision, like especially like in desperate situation, like in war, when like you know like when like the Americans decided that like they're gonna drop the atomic bomb on
Yeah,
into
Japan.
Japan. That was like one of the hardest decision. I can feel it. And
Mm.
even like before that, the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Mm-hmm.
like that could have been worse. Like like without like some interference and like reevaluating like everything that we know and love of what in this world would have been wiped out.
Mm.
And
I look at conflict as, when you're bringing up something as in war, it's usually about and a conflict with another person also. A lot of times it's about power, right?
yeah,
Having power over another.
right,
And when wars occur, you always must ask yourself, well, okay, what is the point of this?
right,
Is it about power one country over another country? Is it about uh, getting resources from that country, and that country's not giving up their resources freely, so therefore we're going to go and get it, right? So you always have to ask yourself, because I think that if people if countries are in conflict, if people are in conflict, if they could just really dialogue, not just pretend to dialogue, but really be open to hearing one another, then maybe we wouldn't have conflict and wars, right? But if there's always this ulterior motive, and you always have to ask yourself, what's the hidden agenda here, right? If somebody is sitting down with you and you're not getting anywhere, you have to ask yourself, what's blocking this? What is it that they really are trying to achieve when they're dialoguing with me? Because if it doesn't feel like it's true dialogue and truly open, then there's something going on. There's something that is blocking that,
right,
and
right,
that's how conflict happens.
right. Because like like usually the aftermath of what is a conflict, we always ask this question: what's happened next?
Right.
Like like when we get this like happiness can I can tell by experience, like sometime when at the most like happiest moment of all,
Mhm.
after a few seconds I could feel that moment lost away.
Right.
And like when people go into concert, like when they see their favorite band, like
Mhm.
they play the greatest hits,
Mhm.
it clicks you, and then you start to jamming and you enter this like this his,
Euphoric state.
euphoric state. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like that moment, like when everything and every suffering that you have sort of lost away.
Dissipates,
Yeah, it
right?
Yeah, it goes
dissipates.
away.
Yes.
And then it
Yes.
comes back
Yeah,
right after.
but then like after the show's done, the curtain closed, everything started to fade back to reality.
Yeah.
You know?
And you're like, oh shit.
Well, you are describing something as someone who has performed since I was young. For many, 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 many years, I would perform with my father,
Mm-hmm.
and perform in concerts, and and in intimate settings as well. But there would be moments within that concert where I would go into what one can only explain as a meditative state.
Right.
And it was at that time that all suffering would be suspended, right? Like I
Right.
would literally be in that ecstatic, that nirvana state,
Right,
right?
because
That
the
everybody
word
searches for,
nirvana,
that happiness.
yeah, because the word nirvana mean is to get out of suffering.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like to be able to like transcend yourself from away all the conflict and like all your
Yes.
suffering, and to be able to move on and be happy of what you have. I think that really can sums up what is happiness right now, is the ability to
Transcend.
rebuild yourself from all of what happened in the
Yes.
past.
Yes.
I think it like it was like about 2 days ago we commemorate the 9/11 attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was one of those darkest time in America history. Like to like it really hit like really hard to everybody. And I think like what happened in that time, and I was able to like go to their memorial in that moment, like when I touched like the deck like the cobblestone for like of those people lost, I felt that energy. I felt that there was something that was so harsh, and when I was able to experience it, it overwhelms me, and it made me cry in a way that I never felt, because that happened in 2001 and I was like 1 year old. But somehow 16 years later, when I first came, it just hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand why, but it was really harsh.
I assume it's that way for all memorials or places in which we know that there's been tragedy. I think others have written about experiences going to concentration camps, right?
Yeah.
In Europe, the Japanese internment camps here in California. I think that any time that there is some sort of place or an experience that's been memorialized throughout our history and throughout our culture, right? And we're reminded of it through possible studying in
Well,
school,
I think there's like
movies.
a vibration that stays there when you're at the place. There's like Nikola Tesla said, everything is frequencies and vibrations and all this stuff. I think that's very much true. So when you go to one of these sites, even though you weren't there or didn't experience it, you still felt it. It's kind of like in Star Wars when Alderaan is destroyed and billions of people are killed. Obi-Wan felt it, because it vibrated through the universe.
Right. Because that is the idea of the forest. The forest is a living entity of its own. It's surrounded everywhere.
Yeah.
It's in our blood. It's in our flesh.
Well, and if you believe in reincarnation, then people are, being reborn over and over again, right?
Right.
And living lifetimes and lifetimes over and over again. Or if you look at psychology, Jung and others who talk about sort of our all being a part of the collective, to bring in, that's Star Wars, is that not? Or no, that's Star Trek. Star Trek? Collective? The collective, whatever.
Oh, the Borg?
Yeah, the Borg, right?
The
Right.
hive mind.
Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly, the collective consciousness.
That's
And what the hell is
psychology.
that?
Right.
But I was gonna say something. When we went to, you remember we went to Auntie Joe's like restaurant she bought, and it used to be a jail,
Right.
and we went
Oh wow.
into the jail
We went
area
underneath where the jail was.
where they did like all these bad things, and you and me immediately felt this heavy burden.
Yes.
Immediately.
We did.
And we like looked at each other and we're like, what the hell? Like we weren't expecting that at all.
Yeah, you
And
felt that energy.
It was weird. We stood in this one spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we went like as we, you know, and then we
Right.
like when we went out of that spot, it was gone. It was just like
Right.
it was weird.
Yeah,
like something
heavy energy.
bad had
Yeah.
happened there.
Yeah,
Right.
well, it was a jail cell, and it you know, you're bringing up sort of New York, and there's isn't Alcatraz over there,
Well,
I
or
think
is that
so.
off of? Oh gosh,
that
Now I'm, like-
Alcatraz
I
would be
feel
like
like
into San Francisco.
Oh, okay, near
Yeah,
San
that's San
Francisco.
Francisco. Yeah.
Okay, I was like New York, San Francisco, one of those places. Yeah,
Yeah, San Francisco.
Alcatraz. You know, I've never been to Alcatraz, but I've always wanted to because I bet that there would be sort of those feelings, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Of,
wonder if you could handle it. You know what I mean?
Right.
right.
Because the uniqueness of Alcatraz is that it's in an isolated island of its own,
Right.
and when we think of isolation, I think that's our downfall. Because when we succumb to our own thoughts in that moment, when we close ourselves, we isolate to the world.
Mm.
That's when the deep, the dark, the twisted, like the like thoughts and mind in our brain triggers, and we just keep trying to fight it, but until a certain point it will break you.
right.
The shadow you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get to that. But I want to say, like, I think it's that vibrations when you go to a place like that. And it could be amplified if you studied or experienced such and such thing. We were watching the documentary with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her rise to power. And I think it hit you hard, definitely, and it hit me very hard too, because we lived that. You lived that struggle. You know, the Latin American struggle, the Arab Muslim struggle, the, you know, what other did they
Are you
have?
talking about
The-
female?
the female struggle.
in a place of authority,
Mhm,
right?
the struggle of poverty, and that's tie, like, you know, hit both of us, because you know, you've spent a lot of time in that, you know, social media or social justice
arena.
arena. I've
Yeah.
spent some time in that,
Right.
and so, you know, our experiences amplify it too, but also that sort of vibration amplifies it.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Well,
great.
I'm kind of glad you guys bring that up, because another question that I kind of begged about is there happiness in political spectrum? I mean, everybody seems to, at this point, really, I can bluntly say this, they really don't give a fuck about any other people than themselves. Like, I can tell you this. This is one of those times that is difficult for anybody in both sides, both conservative and Democrats,
Yeah,
to
hold
able
on,
to
wait.
have dialogues.
I'm getting like major static. There'd be like really silence for a second. Is the air conditioning off?
Yes.
Okay, continue. I don't know what that is. Continue, I'm sorry.
Right. So let me recap. So the question is there happiness in political spectrum? And
So the political arena, do
Yeah.
we find happiness?
right.
is your question.
Right.
Well, I think, Devin alluded to the social justice and various movements, right?
Right.
I think that some people find a lot of happiness in social action, in social justice, right? So if people just take, 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 take everything that is done to them, and they don't have hope for changing their circumstances, or changing the circumstances of a people, or changing the circumstances of a class of people, right?
Right.
If they don't have hope, then how can you be happy?
Hmm.
So I think many people do find happiness in that pursuit of justice, that pursuit of equality. And so I think you can find happiness in the political arena. I mean, I know that when I've participated in marches to change laws, I've felt very happy, right? It's a source of feeling in community with others, and there's so many people who feel the same way that you do, and feel that there's an injustice that needs to be righted, right? And so I can see how just taking action, whether it be with others, and especially when it's with others, there's something about being in community with others that can make you feel happier.
Yeah,
right?
there was very much, they mentioned the rebellion, right? You know what I mean? That's the rebellion against
Right.
the Empire, sort of. And if we're
Right.
going to go with the Star Wars terms, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really what it's about. It's justice,
Right.
and justice
Right.
is often a rebellion.
Well, it's
Right.
right, exactly. I mean, it's saying that our country was founded on the ideas that everyone is equal, but we don't practice what we preach,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's not okay. We need to do better by the people of this country. We need to do better by ourselves. We need to do better for our children and grandchildren. Because if we don't, what's going to happen?
Right. And I'm glad that you bring that up about like people are preach more than they act, because I find that really irritating that some of both conservative and democratic politician seems to has this tendency to getting arguments, and both basically they they bring their idea in, like they just spatting their opinion right in front of your face, and it doesn't even give you an idea or even like an explanation for what they're saying. For example, Trump. Everybody, I can tell you this: everybody is like in the Democratic side are like tired of his rants. I'm just like, that's Trump being Trump.
Right.
Let's put that way, because Trump is we can agree that Trump is an egomaniac. His and don't get me
Right.
wrong, people. Don't get me wrong. I got my reason, because Shark Tank. He live in a reality TV world.
Oh, yeah.
He hosting
Good point.
Miss America, people. So that's where he's come from. And when you hear say, and I'm telling you this because this is what my policy is.
It's gonna be
Right.
huge.
It's gonna be huge. It just and what the propaganda is doing, it's just promoting fake news.
Right.
That's just Trump being Trump. But from my political standpoint, and I'm really happy to say this to you, is that, and like, I don't see Trump as like a motivational speaker. He would be terrible at it. We could
yeah,
agree
you
on
don't.
that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't. You don't
He
feel
does-
motivated.
Can you move
Yes.
your mic a little bit back more?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, Bob.
It was really close.
Yeah. So,
Well, you
but
can move it a little closer, like right, like where you see.
oh okay,
Closer, just a little bit. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
all right. So to continue, but if you're looking at like a point of economic standpoint, that's where you come from. My mom and dad are both work in a bank, and they work for the government. And recently, their bank, shout out to Vietcom Bank, in Vietnam, they just strike a deal with a f- with a financial district in New York, and now like they're able to open the first Vietcom Bank facility in America,
Mm.
which is
They
really
must be so excited.
it's really exciting time, but kind of busy for them. And I haven't talked to them much, but I try avoid not to because I can feel like they're trying to rushing their work. So, but love you guys.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and what Trump is trying to promoting, I think that he's trying to promote like this American product and like American industrial back into the economy. And what he's trying to do is trying to promote more of our of what America products and able to sell it like to sell with like other markets, because now like a lot of our industrial products are made by China.
Mm.
And so that is what his campaign is all about. And really, that really caused the effect of what you guys been telling about, like how he's kind of ignoring the other sides, like the racial issue, like
Yeah, well, he's a businessman. He's a marketer, so that
Right.
makes perfect sense. He's kind of trying to sell the American product, which is what every president has done, and I think
right,
that's
right.
what people are sick of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you know,
Well, I mean, the problem is that while he is focused on that, the aspect of economy and acting like I'm such a great businessman, so therefore I'm going to make all of us rich, okay, and I'm going to create jobs and everything. He's not necessarily doing that effectively and with much success. And then he's also at the same time rolling back laws that were put into place that create a little more equality and demonstrate a caring for the American people. So that's why I have a problem with that, in that, yeah, okay, that's what he's trying to do. I think it's all like smoke and mirrors at this point.
Right.
And a lot of it is to distract us so that they can take away our human rights and take away our rights as citizens as well, right? And take away rights from those who come to our country and are guests here and should have rights as well while
Right.
they're here studying or working or then becoming a citizen. So, anyway, so I think that if you're going to be focusing on economics and strengthening our economy, don't be pretending to do that while you're doing other things that we're not all aware of or unaware of. There's a lot being done, and it's hidden from us, and that's scary to me because I have ancestry that came to this country and came to this country for freedom, right?
Right.
For the ideals that we founded this country on, and I feel very strongly about those ideals.
Right.
And I don't wish to see them systematically torn down by one president or one administration.
One government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about the shadow, and Carl Jung was name dropped a little bit, and we talked a little bit about you have to go to war to find peace and happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one thing that I heard, and it was the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. He has a podcast, and he had David Goggins on the podcast, who's a huge he's just a crazy guy. But they were talking about happiness and success, and the author, I forget his name, Robert something, he said, I'm successful and I'm sort of happy, but I'm not prideful. And and pride is often associated with fulfillment. So he's not fulfilled, and they connected it to what David Goggins was saying to him, which was, you need to go with war, you need to go with war with yourself. You need to go to war. You need to go to war with yourself.
We call it, so that transformation.
Yeah,
You're-
the
you have to go
transformation.
The
through
transformation,
the transformation
or
of the self.
Yeah,
right.
in Islam they call it jihad, and Carl Jung talks about the shadow, and that's the sort of transformation that tests who you are as a human being and
Right.
how strong you are.
I mean, that's also the idea of trial by fire. I mean, when people in, like, I know that Gilgamesh, when there's a piece about like how he went into trials for his love. What's the name again? Like, what's the name of his lover, Gilgamesh?
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's Enkidu and there's Gilgamesh, and I think everybody else is kind of a side character.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, anyway, and also like the idea of like Dante Alighieri, the
Dante's
Divine Inferno, or the Divine Comedy, talks
Yes.
about like the 7 levels of hell and hell. He's trying to retrieving the soul of Beatrice, his lover. And so, yeah, I mean, the idea that people should go to a transformation and able to make themselves better is kind of existent in both, like, in a lot of like subject, like literature. You can see it in like motivational speak, and even in religions, like in sermons, like they talk about it constantly.
Right, that inner transformation.
Right,
Yes.
like in the Bible is the story of Lazarus.
Lazarus.
Yeah, the Lazarus. And
yeah, I think society, I think that's what's been forgotten in society, is you need to go through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We sort of rush adolescence, especially.
Right.
We just say, go to school, go to school, go to school, go to school. And we sort of forget that there needs to be a transformation within themselves to figure out what the hell they are. And when you're talking about like in the household, that's why a lot of teenagers get very bitchy with their parents, because their parents are holding them back in some way.
And like, I always afraid of like now when I'm grow older, I feel more responsible to my family, my parents' happiness, because I feel like the hard work that they have given to me as to giving me an education and come here and to study really helped me like had an open minded about my parents' sacrifice and
Mm-hmm.
the amount of of hard work that they put on that they put on for almost 40 years now is tremendous and I never and I felt great to came here and have this experience. And when my parents came back and came here about 3 weeks ago, we it was one of those times I felt happy to
Mm.
able to talk with them with the much with a lot amount of positive optimism. Like we were able to talk about like a lot of our concerns, a lot of our problems, but we were able to encourage each other to be better,
Mm.
and that was really great about it.
Yes.
But but then again, when you said about like teenagers being bitchy and
Mm.
with their parents, I mean that's our generation right now. And what happened is it transferred into another form, which is social media.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm.
one of the biggest, I think, one of the biggest danger of social media that it can hurt you. It can really hurt your identity. It can really hurt your self-esteem, and it can
Mm.
really hurt your reputation.
Well, it's a fake
Yes.
land.
Yeah,
Right.
It's not real.
right.
And you know,
And
that's not necessarily the adolescent's fault. You know what I mean?
right.
Right. Well,
A lot of
you're.
fault goes to the parents and to the education system that there's not implements in place being taught how to use such a powerful tool correctly.
Well, okay. So, as you are growing up, you go through what we call identity crises, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So, what you two are referring to is the identity crisis that is experienced within adolescence, and you could have several of them, right?
Yeah, you could have them all the way till you're 60.
Yeah, there's
Right.
always some, you can, yeah, you can have multiple,
Like
many identity
I,
crises.
I
But sorry, Jake, I just want to
yeah.
finish. So the identity crisis being coupled with social media, that was not something that I experienced as a teenager, right? I didn't have social media to be displaying all of my crises
Yeah.
on the internet for that will be there forever and ever and ever for somebody to find. And that's the difference, right? That's the difference in that you all now can let the whole world know when you're going through an identity crisis, um and
There's
and
a lot of
adults do that as
judgment
well,
placed.
right? Adults do that as well. They're constantly um, posting when they're going through things, um, and is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I think that we should, maybe be a little cautious
Well, yeah.
Right.
I
and
think
not
it's a
just display all of our emotions.
I think it's a bad thing for one thing that you said, Jake, earlier,
Mhm.
which was you find yourself in solitude. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
Right.
Like you gotta disconnect from everybody. You gotta get out of the city, the kind of concrete jungle,
Mhm.
and you need to go out and be a little selfish because
mm,
you gotta be selfish in order to be selfless. You
mm.
know, you gotta figure out what you are in terms, and that's the sort
In
of
order to give
war.
to others, you mean?
Yeah.
I had the same idea with you, but I feel like the social media create this facade that everybody should have this
A lot
certain
of flossing.
appeal and like a lot of this like structure. It's
Mm,
like I see a lot of many people posting about like going out or anything at any certain time, and even like they posting at while they're driving, and which is dangerous.
Ooh, very
Mhm.
dangerous.
Like it's
Wow.
dangerous. Even 30 people, like 30-year-old people,
Right.
they would post an inspirational like speaking while they driving, or like they show off their like
There's
clo-
6 packs.
six packs or
Mhm.
clothing that
Mhm.
like super sexy and all that stuff, and like like
Yeah.
and let me tell you this, like Bilber said, don't show your shut up, don't show your chest and like able to make an inspirational speech. I mean, come on, what you thinking? What you thinking, huh? Like you're trying to give a people speech or something, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot of stunting and flossing on social media. Look at my new car. Look how successful I am. But
Oh,
it's
that's
really because people deep down are very insecure, and they
Right.
need recognition, in order
Mhm.
to be.
Yeah, and then that ties up to like depression and like what happened in Dayton, El Paso, all of these mass shooting like that happens in the last of our 20 years.
Mm.
Think about Columbine. Think about the Sandy's mass
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook. I mean,
Mhm.
those were devastating.
Yes.
And I think like now it's one of those times that everybody seems to lost themselves in that
Mm.
process.
And you think social media is affecting our society so much that we're seeing an increase in shootings? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And I had this conversation with Eldridge when we walked back from the Orange Circle on Friday.
Mhm.
And we were kind of discussing briefly of how social media is making our generation, you and I, become more self-serving and become
Mm.
Selfish,
selfish,
insecure,
insecure, and being
depressed.
depressed. Yeah, and like I can safely say I'm at this moment in my life, I haven't feel any depression at all. It's just I'm feeling a little tired.
Mm.
The wariness of like of a lot of information that is coming
Yeah,
through
there's
my
an
mind.
information
Yeah,
overlord.
overload.
Overload. And there's
Yeah.
an overlord. How things comes up.
Social media
Yeah.
as the lord of everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a huge overload in terms of information, and you just kind of you're not allowed to discharge, and that's where a lot of people look at meditation as a tool, or washing the dishes can even be a meditation if you
Yeah, like for
Mhm.
do it
me,
right.
yeah, like I always do this segment called Cooking Weekend in Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Mm.
notice that because
You love to cook.
yeah, but also it's really meditative for me because cooking is an act of love. And when
Mm.
you cook for yourself, it's mean you're learning how to love yourself.
Yes.
You're learning how to nurture your body. And then when you're doing it, when you do it at a constant pace or a
Mm.
constant like moment like point, it becomes like this nature. And when you're doing it and when you're able to share with other people, you begin to feel appreciate of your hard work, but also people feel happy for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You're
Because
feeding people.
yeah, because feeding
Mhm.
people is a way that you nourish them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not just nourishing them physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well.
right.
People like to be well fed and they feel loved when they're fed well and it tastes good
Yeah,
Yeah.
too.
I think the conversation really needs to be changed in our society towards happiness and self awareness, and not towards the element of and the facade of success, which is being promoted and has been promoted for
Right.
a long time. And we're sort of shifting into the new empire of authenticity, but there's still that trap.
Competing
That-
with the Joneses, they call
Yeah,
it. Right.
that
Yeah.
a lot of adolescents especially get into because, you know, there's judgment placed on everybody.
Yeah,
Mhm.
even at like at the microscopic thing, like what's your type of music?
Hmm
It really
Mm.
it can really judge you, like people can judge you from that too.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
who cares what I like to listen
Yeah.
to?
Yeah, like
Mhm.
Who
now
cares what so and so likes to
yeah,
listen
like
to?
now I see like a lot of like younger people listening to this trap music and like these hip hop artists um like flexing on their wealth, on their cars, on
Mhm.
how many women that
Yeah,
they have been
there's definitely two
surrounding.
sides of the hip hop genre, and you gotta pick a side. I think there's that, you know, flossing. Then there's also the very
Old head.
intellectual side.
Yeah, old head versus new age, and
Well-
that has been like existing during the past of 10 years. Like now, I mean, I I can reflect that like back when hip hop was blowing up in the 90s, you got like guys like Tupac, you got Biggie, you got Nas.
Tupac.
Oh yeah,
I
Tupac was
love
up.
Tupac. He was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, then you got Snoop Dogg, the Boss, Snoop D-O double G, and then you got Dr. Dre,
Oh my god.
Eminem,
Mhm.
and all the guys. Like,
Rakim.
yeah, they really put that music genre back to the map, and then
Well, they created it.
yeah
You know, it wasn't
they
even on the map, and
they
they
but they perfected it. They perfected to a point that it becomes so successful to them that it seems like they were able to live out. They were able to be happy. Think about it. Like Jay-Z, he's like the millionaire dollar, like the millionaire hip hop artist. He's married to Beyonce, and they have a family, and they look happy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they look happy, but Jay-Z has talked about, you know, his rut in social media, and that's how we get into New Empire. Is artists, these big artists, start being more authentic and talking about the difficult times they've had, and so, you know, Jay-Z was on a podcast and he talked about how he just has to go into seclusion and meditate too, because he gets caught in that trap. Because it's very easy to get caught in that trap.
Yeah, even
Mm.
any artist. Like I know you guys probably love Robin Williams.
Who's that?
Robin Williams.
He passed away, right?
Right.
Yeah.
From
Suicide.
He's on Jumanji too, right?
Yeah. What? Oh gosh.
He's
I
also
can hear the music in my head. Our favorite movie.
Oh, Birdcage.
Birdcage.
Birdcage,
Yes.
I love Birdcage.
He was Mork and Mindy. way back
Good Will
when.
Hunting,
Yeah.
Aladdin.
Yeah. He
Was he on Aladdin?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was.
played
He
the
was the
cartoon?
genie, man.
Yeah, he played the genie.
Oh.
Yeah, and
Aladdin's
Robin.
too Orientalist for me.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
it was
Problem with that.
Robin Williams. I would say the most greatest comedian of all time.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it was so
He's
tragic
hilarious.
that he lost his life to suicide, and it really
He
affected.
lost life to suicide?
Yeah, he took
Yeah.
his
I'm
life.
like out of the know. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he so I guess what you're talking about is that even you can be a big star, right?
Right,
And still be unhappy.
right,
Have
Yeah.
success and be
Mhm.
famous.
Right.
Because you're not proud of yourself, right?
No,
that
I
where that
mean, I
relates?
think
If you're not happy?
depression. I think depression. There's a lot with depression. There can be chemical imbalance.
There's also family turmoils, and
Mm,
there's also related to your like struggle with any kind of like addiction. Like
addiction,
for
right?
example, like Robin Williams, he has addiction with alcohol, and he
Oh,
did mention about
I didn't know
being
that.
rehab,
Mm,
like to and he was also bullied back when he was young too,
mm,
and it really affected his mental health.
mm-hmm.
And I think that like when he passed away, it it marked a point where we have to realize that like depression is a real problem.
It is, and
Yeah,
it's a real problem in many communities, right? It's not just kids. It's not just there's so many people that look happy and they're not happy. They struggle with depression.
right.
I remember I had a friend who had told me, I struggle with depression, and in my naivete, I said, but you always seem so happy.
You're always
And
smiling.
I learned from her that that
Mhm.
was the wrong thing to say. So I got called out on
So
that, and I learned
wrong.
that 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 was not just because somebody looks happy. Um, when you see them, doesn't mean that they're not struggling with a deep depression and maybe having to take medication to help. Or some people, medication doesn't help, and they have to find other means to get through this thing we called life,
And this past few days, I was able to come back and play this little game called Life is Strange.
Mm.
And in that game, I find a lot of themes about depression,
Oh, really?
and
Yeah,
the
that's huge
themes,
in that game.
I've
uh,
never heard of that game.
and it talks about a lot of like the idea of loss. One of the characters, two characters that I think is a good example of type of depression. Kate and Chloe Price,
Mm.
and the aftermath of depression really really resemble in like these two characters. Kate, she let me give you guys a little background of the character because I don't want to spoil
So
it
is a
a lot.
character in the game?
Yeah,
Life is Strange.
yeah,
Okay.
Life is Strange, and
It's a video game?
it's a video game.
Okay.
It's a story video game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Kate, like,
RPG?
No,
no, it's a
storytelling.
yeah,
This is
storytelling.
okay.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing game, and it won like multiple awards.
Huh. Okay.
And
Cool.
I think like um the game really tells a really related story.
Relatable character.
Yeah,
Yeah, very
and
relatable.
yeah. So anyway, so Kate, she is a Christian, a
Mhm.
very devoted Christian girl,
Mhm.
but somehow like how the writing of this character is she's seems to like caught in like depression of her lot like in like she kind of like lost in her belief, and she kind of lost in her own like guidance because she has been devoted to Christian so long that even at even she was so devoted to it, she couldn't handle all the oppression that she had for a lot of like bullying, like the bullying from this girl Victoria, and like and then the like like public shaming in social media.
For her
Mm.
being Christian.
No, for this kind of like video that like they recorded her partying and making out with other people,
Oh,
Oh.
and
Okay.
So
and
she
it
lost her faith.
and
is what
it
I'm
was
hearing.
devastating when I
Wow.
saw her jump from. Oh no, I shouldn't say.
You're
Okay,
spoiling
don't
it.
say
I
no
don't want
spoilers.
no
No
spoil
spoilers.
no
Well,
spoil. Sorry guys, sorry.
We can probably
No
guess.
spoilers.
Yeah, so what happened
We
to
don't wanna
her
know.
is that she committed suicide.
Okay.
And so it really affected the tone of the story of and it taught me something. Like even people with the most like devoted, the most like the most
You think they're very faithful.
faithful to
Right.
their own belief,
Mhm.
even them can have depression.
Well, isn't there that show? I have never seen it because I don't know. Maybe I just haven't had a desire. The 13 Reasons Why or something like that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
everybody's
Kind of glorifies suicide.
right, and that's concerning. There have been academics that have written about this. It's a big concern because of what you just said. This glorifying of suicide, and
Mhm.
suicide is a real issue. It's a real issue not just in our culture or in our country, but in other countries, right?
Right.
In other countries, isn't it? I want to say in
Japan.
Japan, right?
Yeah, there's
Isn't there a lot of suicide among
yeah, there's a
young
forest
people?
called
Suicide forest.
if I can't remember the name of it is Aokigawa Forest.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Aokigawa Forest was one of those and I did a story about it and in one of like back when I was a senior. You remember that? Yeah, I did. I did.
You
I
wrote a story
remember
about
that.
it, or
No,
you
he
wrote a
brought
paper about
us
it?
article in,
Oh,
right?
about it.
You brought an
Yeah,
article.
yeah, and like
This
about
sounds
how
familiar.
this YouTuber basically
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Logan
Made,
Paul,
sort of
right?
made fun of it, or
yeah, so made
yeah.
fun of it.
He videotaped a dead body.
Oh my.
Um,
Was insensitive, is what you're saying.
he was insensitive. It was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. You brought in the glorification of suicide. Jay Fisher was on the news talking about that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A psychologist friend of ours. Yes.
Yeah, we got to have him
Yes.
on the podcast. He's
Oh, that'd
very,
be
very
cool.
interesting. Yeah, he talked about that. And sort of, I haven't seen the show for
I
that
haven't.
reason,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I haven't either.
And,
But it's very,
Graphic. It's really graphic.
is it graphic?
Yeah,
Have you
really-
seen it?
It's very graphic in like the terms of these character are acting and like they kind of like use their physical action that it really struck to me and I tried to avoid that show as well because
It's tempting.
yeah, it's really tempting, but
What do you
it
mean?
really
Tempting to watch? You mean?
No, it's tempting
Tempting
that
others?
idea
The
that you
idea?
kill yourself and you leave videotapes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
You know, that
Oh.
is very tempting. It's very
Right.
tempting to, cut yourself and then let's say, for example, bleed out somewhere.
Oh,
It's very
this
tempting.
conversation just get dark.
Yeah,
people. It's
there-
getting dark.
Well, I don't want to glorify suicide at all, but there's a beauty to everything.
Right.
And sometimes people see that beauty in suicide and in the art of suicide.
Right, and like death has always been this obsession of our existence. Like what is gonna happen to our body after we die? Speculation about who we are after death, the afterlife, angels or demons.
Right.
Um,
But
the-
if somebody takes their own life, it's I don't know that is in terms of I don't know that that's a glorifying of suicide. That is a cry out. It's
For help.
A cry for it's a cry. It's a letting us all know
Mhm.
that something very. I mean, I can think of 3 people off the top of my head that I know that committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is not something that is new to me. It's not something that's new to your generation. This has been going on for a long
A
time.
long
My
time.
generation, people older than I am, people younger than I am, and it's 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 when people are to the point they're in such deep despair that they just can't get out of it, and then they take their own life. So I don't, I mean, if a show is going to teach us how somebody could be in deep despair and to provide compassion and to learn to be compassionate, if it's going to do that, then I'm down with that. But if it's going to be glorifying this
Glorifying it,
thing called
yeah.
suicide,
Like,
I
look
am
what you
not
can
okay
do.
with that. I'm not okay
There.
with that, because we need to get past this lifestyle of a social media lifestyle where everybody's videotaping themselves constantly for the whole world to see. And let me post this photo and that photo. We're not all on reality TV show here, but we're acting as though we are,
Right.
right?
Yeah, we all want to be.
That's why because like when I do these cooking weekends, like it's not just like I want to showboating it. It's just that I want to do something that I love, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to do
And
with,
you want to share it.
and I want to share it with people with a sense of enthusiasm, as
Yeah.
well as drawing. Like when I took that summer class on drawing, I having fun. I was very productive with it, and I felt the energy of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I always
Mm-hmm.
felt the energy of like there was an uncertainty about it, like if I gonna do well. But as I continued to go on with it, I felt so tremendously grateful um, with the experience. And thanks to Mr. Howard, his name is Tim Howard, amazing professor. I really like
Nice.
him. Santa Ana, baby, you
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
you guys are the best. And yeah, and it really opened me to other people, and I met a lot of
Mm.
people who are new to art, and sometimes and people who have been in the school for so long, and it's just amazing thing. But
And you're talking about something, that may be close to art therapy, right? We actually have such a therapy out there in which the medium of art is used to heal,
right,
right?
right. Think of like many of works of art that had like uh, Van Gogh. Van Gogh
Yes.
was really tragic. His story
Yes.
as an artist was really tragic,
Mm.
and like we very grateful for him, like to able to make those work in those time. And back then, there was this taboo of expressing people of your depression, and and you're not allowed to it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And as male, like you and me, Devin, like we were not allowed to show any kinds of weakness either. Like to like like our existence, like to like out the history.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like
It's a shift for us as men. I mean, there's some of us who do show weakness, and there's some of us who don't, because we
right,
still can't show weakness.
right,
It's just not smart. And
Mm.
you know, I'm very opinionated on the subject of young men, but you do you. Like I don't know. I don't know where
Mm.
to. You have to find your,
yeah,
how you want to portray yourself to the world.
right, right, and yeah, like always be minded about what you're portraying, and always be aware of
Mm.
what you're showing to people, because
Mm-hmm.
Right.
because what you're showing can either help you or it can destroy you.
Mm.
And you know
People size you up. They make a judgment about you in, what is it, the first 3 seconds?
Yeah, you
of
got to be
meeting
careful.
Yeah,
I'm just
cyberbullying.
gonna
you, right?
say, don't be. If you're a young man, don't.
Just,
You gotta be careful, cause you can't portray yourself
Mm,
as weak
right.
just
But
cause.
just be genuine, guys. Like, honestly, just be genuine. We need genuine people.
Yeah, but there's a lot of fake, genuine,
Right.
where young guys don't really know themselves, but even if you don't know yourself, you still need to, I think, portray yourself strong when you're walking down the street. You have to hold yourself a certain way.
Hold your head up high.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hold your head up high.
Shoulders back, head
Don't-
up high.
And
Don't
be
also-
proud
slouch.
of who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
because people look at that, and people are predators.
Yeah.
yeah, and always, and always look for support. Family. I think
Yes.
family is the best the best solution
Mm-hmm.
to every single problem.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have good family support, then you find friends that can be like family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
communities, various communities, whether
Yeah,
they be
like
a social community, a religious community, whatever type
Yeah.
of community, a club,
yeah, like
sports
I have a
team.
I have a show that like I watch religiously like for the past 2 years since I came here. It's called BoJack Horseman. It's a really clever show about showing you the reality of the A-listers life and how
It's a nihilistic show, right?
right, really nihilistic, but it hit me so hard because it's teaching me about the idea of depression, about suicidal thoughts, and about like the self-destructive act and how it affect your mental health basically. And
Yes, your thoughts can.
yeah,
Your
and
thoughts and words and actions can
yeah,
Well,
create a reality that
you're
you may
talking
not
about
want.
friends, and this is another topic, but I'm sure there's got to be somebody listening to this and going, well, I don't have any friends.
Right.
There's a lot of people that
Feel
they don't know
lonely.
how to make friends,
Mhm.
or they don't have that tribe, and there's a huge loneliness epidemic
Yes.
where a lot of
there is.
people
Yes.
feel like they can't talk to anybody.
Right.
They don't have close friends.
Right.
So
that even happens as you get older. You move in and out of communities, and you lose some friends and you gain new ones, and you have to be malleable. You have to be able to traverse various communities and connect with people.
right.
But that's
not something that we've taught very well.
We haven't.
We need to teach that better to our students. I mean, I was very blessed in that I had parents who made me at a very young age walk up to people on the playground and introduce myself and say, you want to play, and learn how to make friends. But that doesn't mean that I didn't experience loneliness and moments of loneliness and feeling not as connected to friends. And I have experienced all of that, and that's a part of why you need to seek out communities and find what you're interested in, and go find like-minded individuals to become friends with, right? Like,
Right.
For instance, Dungeons and Dragons, right? We all love to play that game. Well, where can you go? A comic store, right? When we were in New Mexico, right, in a small town, we found out, they have Dungeons and Dragons playing, and they said to us,
they had an awesome D&D
each
table.
week we play D&D. Come join us.
Yeah,
If we were staying longer, we would have done that, right? And it was like, whoa, like-minded people.
Yeah, I kind of miss that too. Like now, think back of my senior, if I weren't doing soccer, I would have love to spend all day playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But you know, and
we need to get a game going. Yeah.
and we do need a game going,
Right.
and
And that's fun. That's finding community, right? Within, so we found community within the school, right? The Dungeons and Dragons crew, so to speak.
right,
But I think you're right, Devin. I think that we do have people out there that are listening and saying, I don't know what to do. And that's why, I mean, I've had people talk to me about being lonely or wanting friends, and I've always encouraged them, go find a community, go find an activity that you enjoy. You will naturally find people that are interesting to you. Go take a class at your local community college or somewhere. Find those that have similar interests, and you will start to make friends organically, and you never know who you're going to find that's going to be your friend for a lifetime. And it's not about the amount of friends you have, it's not quantity, it's quality.
It's the quality of
It,
friends.
Right,
it
it's the
truly
quality
It
is.
really is.
My best friend and I have been best friends since college, and we met in theater class. If we didn't take theater class, maybe we wouldn't have met and become such close friends. And we've been friends for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And our kids are similar ages, and but we don't live in the same state. We live in separate states. As a matter of fact, I need to call her. I'm just letting y'all know we may need to end this soon so I can call her back.
yeah,
And tell her how much you love her.
Yes,
Yeah,
because I do.
so like,
Yeah,
I
it's
do.
a-
Dr. Lisa, I love you.
It's this is a difficult topic. We'll have to talk about it in another
right,
Definitely.
another episode. But this has been a great episode nonetheless.
yeah.
Thank you, Jake, for being
Thank you, Jake, for being
here.
here.
Well,
So wonderful
thank
to
you
have
for
you on
having
the
me here,
podcast.
and and my apologies to any listener, who find it a little destructive. Like there is like a lot of caught up bits and pieces of when I talk to, and I try to be polite a little bit, so my apologies in that. And I love to talk with people, and sometimes you get that enthusiastic over, like it runs over you, and you can't face yourself, and like you're trying to express it, but
Jake, let me just say
Yeah.
this. We've enjoyed having you on here, and we would rather have a talkative guest rather than a silent guest. So we are very, very happy that you are talkative and you have opinions, and you participate as a full member. Like, you could be a part of the Bayat Beat. You're like our extended family, as we've talked about so many times, right? So you're
Yeah.
it's like you're a part of our family. So you fit in very well.
yeah. So
Yes.
thanks again, guys, and
Thank you.
yeah. So I think that's our conclusion to today's episode.
Yes.
Yes,
so,
I think it is.
So we normally end our episode with Devin calls us to say something, so you may join with us today if you
And
like.
we are the
Bayat
Bayat Beats.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, comment, and share with your friends
Yes.
and family.
Also,
who need to hear our message.
Also,
Yes.
listen into our Spotify. Come on, people. We need more listeners.
That's
And we
right.
love to have you listen and have some thoughts and express it out. Share it with your friend.
Yeah.
And that's help us grow this podcast. And we can make more episodes related to you. Who knows?
the
Maybe we could
dialogue
ask.
going.
Yeah, Q&A.
Maybe
Yeah.
we can have you as a guest.
That's right. You
Yeah.
never know. Get the dialogue going with your friends and family. That's most important.
Right.
Egg on those deep conversations.
That's right.
Right.
This is This is truly what my family life was like growing up, and this is what Devin experienced as well. So we're giving you just a snippet
Just
of
a
what it's
snippet.
like
Just
in
a little
our
bit.
household.
Just a little itty bitty.
Just a little
boo.
itty bit. Little
Yep.
itty bit, yeah.
All right. Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, Arno. I'll be back.
Well, when you wind up, wind